Welcome back to Redacted Voices. Today we're going to be troubleshooting a very problematic batch oven. This oven had a crash blower fan that we had already replaced, and now intermittently the oven would be shutting off by itself. It wasn't up until this point to where we got a little bit deeper into the troubleshooting that we noticed our drives having a F007 fault, as you can see on the screen. So we're taking all the precautions right now, and we're just kind of working through the Allen Bradley variable speed drive. And right now I'm just checking the internal fan on this drive just to make sure that we're not over temping inside the drive, so I can diagnose that the overload fault is coming from the motor. So right now I'm just putting the fan back in after I was just kind of point-to-point troubleshooting throughout the little drive. So after I get this fan in, I'm going to go ahead and power the machine back on, and we'll go ahead and take some amp readings and see what this motor is looking like internally. So there, I started the unit. So I'm only running motors and fans right now. I'm not calling for heat. So I'm going to use my amp clamp to take phase readings on this motor, and I want to see how much current this motor's pulling through this drive. So what's displaying on my amp clamp right now is about 13.9 amps, and the drive display is displaying 14 amps. So we're right on par. So there's no differential between amperages. They are exactly the same. And here we are, we faulted out again. So there's definitely a problem, and it looks like at this point we're going to go ahead and focus our attention on the motor. So at this point I removed the belt from the motor, and I ran the motor without any load to see if there was a drop in amperage, and I noticed that there wasn't. So I got with the client and I told them that it looks like there's something going on in the motor after that fan crashed internally inside. So I let them know that your motor's having an issue and that you're going to have to change the motor more than likely. So the motor is still operational, it's just running at a higher amperage at this point. So it could have had some damage to the windings, but still functional. So the client notified me that they didn't have a replacement motor. So we're gonna see what we can do here for them. So I'm putting the motor belt back on, basically reapplying the load because they still need to run the oven. We weren't sure at this point when a new motor would get here, the lead time on a new motor. So we're kind of doing what we can for them. So I'm running the motor back with the load on it just to see if there's any more issues and if the motor will still be operational. And at this point it is. Same amperage, everything is the same. So we're going to go ahead and see what we can do for them. Yeah, so it looks like the motor's fully operational. Put the load on, put the belt tension, the blower everything's still functional. It's just running at a slightly higher amperage. So I added some grease in the bearings just as a precaution to see if I could alleviate any of the pressure that's on the motor. And I also tested the bearings and everything felt good, so I think it's some damaged windings internally. So whatever this motor experienced, it was pretty bad. So right now I'm just checking through my parameter groups to see where that fault is. So I'm looking at my fault codes for F007. So as a good rule, prior to any troubleshooting job, you want to have all your information at hand. And I always get a highlighter and I highlight kind of the the areas where I'm working at. So if it's in a specific fault codes, I kind of highlight it and I keep track of where I've gone so far, because I don't want to lose, especially when I have open parameters. I don't want to input a wrong value. So right now I'm checking some parameters that are related to the P003 or the F007 fault code. And I'm checking to see if parameters are enabled or disabled. And right now I'm looking at a A084 parameter, and it looks like they're all disabled. These are the advanced parameter group inside these PowerFlex drives. It doesn't look like this drive has any advanced parameter settings inputted, so we're just basically running off some basic motor functions. So right now I have a parameter highlighted, which is the P033. So I'm just checking through these parameters. So we'll go through the parameter fault, or we'll actually go through the fault that indicated on the display, and it's actually a fault 007, which is right here. And this fault kind of tells me that we're having a motor load issue, which is right where we thought we were, but we went and we took the liberty to check the drive to make sure that there's nothing internally faulting in the drive. So this fault group says it's an internal electronic overload trip caused by excessive motor load exists. Reduced load, so drive output current does not exceed the current set by parameter P033. So we went ahead and reduced the load, and we still had the same amperage values, which are basically overcurrent. Because if you go to the motor nameplate for this motor, you'll notice that this motor, 10 horsepower motor, has running at 460, which is the higher voltage, should be running at or operational at 12.2 max. And right now we're operating at just a little bit over 13 amps. So if you're operational at an amp over max, there's definitely a problem within the motor. So we're gonna see what we could do about this. We'll see what the time frame in getting a new motor is, and then we'll go from there. So right now I'm going into my P033 motor parameter, drive parameter, and I'm gonna set that drive parameter from, looks like it was set at 13, and I'm gonna go ahead and raise that to 15, just to give us some leeway. And we'll run the motor again and see if we can fault, if we're not going to fault out at that. Then we'll go ahead and find out how long it's going to take to get a new motor, and we'll go from there. So after I input that value on the drive, I'm going to go ahead and set my display group parameters back so I can read hertz or amperage. So right now I'm in the display group parameters, and obviously I set it for hertz. So this motor's operational at 60 hertz. So after I raised the overcurrent on this drive and this motor, the motor was holding and the motor was running. So we're running slightly over the motor overcurrent, but it's okay, because this motor is gonna get changed anyways, and this drive is capable of handling a 40 horsepower motor. So it's not gonna hurt the drive. The motor's already bad, so we talked to the customer and they said it's okay to raise it just a hair. So we did that just to get through the drive, just to get through the run, and until the new motor arrived, which would be about a day and a half out. So after doing several runs on this. The motor was handling and holding, and we were just running at about 13.5 amps. So we felt that it was okay to continue and to go ahead and let them run their cycles. So this is kind of some of the procedures that you take to troubleshoot through motor controls, and it just depends. Sometimes you deal with motor contactors, sometimes you have drives, fuses, stuff like that. So these are just some of the procedures that you take, but it's always good to be organized and accurate when you're diagnosing these types of faults. So you want to have all your data available at hand. Always gather your motor nameplate info. If you're dealing with the drive or if you're dealing with contactors, you want to have all the info available so you're not just kind of guessing, or you're not just troubleshooting blindly. So if this is the kind of content that you like, getting further in troubleshooting, motor controls, electrical, stuff like that, then please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you.